What's up, you guys? I'm just kidding. That's not my signature catchphrase, but it is the signature catchphrase for this gentleman. His name is Sean Ross Sapp. He is the managing editor of Fightful.com. Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Now, I'm sure it's probably obvious for anybody watching that Sean and I know each other. Every Wednesday, we do a podcast for Fightful called The List on Your Boy. And normally that podcast, we have a certain element of humor in that podcast. We also sometimes have a little bit of coarse language in that podcast. Going to try our best not to do that today, because today we're going to talk about something different.
Yeah, well, we're definitely not going to talk about cursing, because I don't do that.
Oh, no, never.
At all.
You're a saint through and through.
Yes.
We are talking to Sean today about something different. We're going to talk to Sean about a friend of his, and we're going to talk to Sean about something that he did that I thought was amazing, and how we were able to utilize the presence of a popular media entity in order to drive awareness to this thing. So I want to talk to you about your friend Cheyenne Scott. Start out by telling me, how you met, where you met, and talk about your friendship a little bit.
Yeah, we met about the way that you meet anybody in a small town like where we came from, or a small area, a very rural area. It's at field parties or just gatherings in general. We went to different schools. We were separated by a few years in age. So I met her, I think it was at a party or something of that nature, and we just introduced each other. We became friends. And that's just really how it is out here. If you don't know somebody through sports or through school or just through a mutual friend, you probably end up meeting them at a party, because there's not that much stuff to do around here. Like, we don't have like go-kart racing tracks and rock climbing and all that stuff. You go to the movies or you go to a party. That's about the extent of the entertainment here if you're a teenager or a 20-something.
And did you say where here is? Tell people where here is.
Oh, here for me is Ewing, Kentucky, but here for her was Germantown, Kentucky. And right in the middle is a city called Maysville. And some people might know Maysville. It's where much of the Clooney family is from, George Clooney, Rosemary Clooney. Okay. We've had some NBA players emerge from the area, and Miss America was from there. So like there are some notable people that have emerged from there, but that's kind of like the central point. Anybody within the 30-minute radius of Maysville kind of congregates in Maysville or that area.
And what is it that brought you guys together as friends? Because I got to tell you, I was looking Cheyenne up on Facebook, and I noticed that one of her favorite athletes that she had listed was Nikki Bella. And so that got me wondering. Now, of course, there could be people watching this that do not know professional wrestling. And so, in case you're not, Nikki Bella, she got famous in WWE and then spun that into reality television fame with Total Divas, Total Bellas, a couple of reality shows. So I saw that Nikki Bella was listed on Cheyenne's Facebook page. So did you guys have a love for pro wrestling in common, or not at all?
Absolutely zero. That is the first knowledge I've ever heard of her liking Nikki Bella.
Really? Talking
about wrestling, anything of the type. Yeah, I had never heard of that before you mentioned it. So yeah, that definitely was not it. We just happened to know a lot of the same people, and we had been in the same vicinity a lot of times. And I mean, she stands out in a crowd. Like there aren't a lot of people that look like her. She's got a unique, different look to her. But we didn't know each other. So we kind of saw each other. We're like, hey, I've seen you around. Hey, I've seen you around. And we just came to know each other that way. It's one of those things where if you've been around somebody so many times, but you don't introduce yourself out here, then you probably don't like them. So it's a way of you saying, hey, I don't have a problem with you just because we've never spoken before and been around each other. That's how small like our community and our cities and towns are.
I got it. I mean, what you ended up doing in her honor is something that I think you're only going to do for somebody very close to you. So what was it that brought you guys together as close friends?
Just knowing each other, and quite frankly, despite how I appear on shows and stuff like that, and it's something that you brought up before too, I'm a little bit introverted. Like in person, when I first meet people, I kind of keep keep back a little bit, but I love socializing. I love going out. I love hanging out with my friends. I'm not a drinker. I don't do anything like that. And really, she was introverted in kind of the same way. So it sort of was like that, hey, we're going to sit off to the side type of thing. And we just started to talk. We became good friends. And the thing that I liked so much about Cheyenne was if she could tell you were a good person, she was fiercely loyal to you. And it's hard to really put that into words, but again, in a small town, you're going to have people that don't like you. And you'll become the topic of conversation, and that happens with almost everybody. But I think it was maybe a week after I met her, so I was the topic of one of those conversations, and she stood up for me. And one of our mutual friends told me that, and I appreciated that, and I never forgot that. Somebody that I just met was willing to go to bat for me after just having met me, and said, no, I think he's a pretty good dude. He was very nice to me. He helped me out in a couple situations already. So that stood out to me, and I was like, that's the kind of friend that I want. That's the kind of person that I want to have around me, and that's important to me. And we had very little in common, and I mean very little in common. But those are a lot of times the kind of people that I like to be around, because I want to experience new things and meet people that like different things that I like, or do different things than what I do, or are from different places. So that's really what kind of brought us together.
One other thing I noticed about her Facebook page that I thought was very interesting, especially for a girl her age, a girl in her 20s, was she seemed to like old music, classic music.
Yeah.
According to her Facebook page, she listed the Beatles and John Lennon and Freddie Mercury and Elvis and the Carpenters and Jim Morrison. And then right along with them, Eminem was listed there. I thought that was very fascinating that a girl in her 20s was into all of that classic music. Was that ever something that you guys, because you and I haven't really talked music all that much, is that something that you had in common with her?
Well, I'm more of a hip-hop guy, and there were still a lot of musicians and things like that. Like, I love Queen. I love that. We had a mutual friend by the name of Caleb Cornett, who goes by Amtrak, and we both loved his music. She liked a lot of like screamo bands and pop punk bands too. But really where we connected musically was more of like those pop punk and like sort of emo bands that she liked. And really, quite frankly, she introduced me to a few of them. So like A Day to Remember, stuff like, I didn't know who that was before I met her. I didn't know that I would even like that type of music. And that's where I kind of found that.
Very interesting. So let's talk now about what happened to Cheyenne. Can you remember when you found out and when it was, and what exactly happened? Can you walk me through that from your recollection?
Yeah, so Cheyenne and I always kept in touch with her as best I could. She battled a lot. Like, she battled some addiction, and she was quite frankly gone quite a bit to where I couldn't reach her. Like, there were a couple times where she was, quite frankly, she was either incarcerated or trying to go through rehab to overcome her addiction. So when it would go a few months without, like, I would go a few months without hearing from her or anything, I would wonder, like, is it that? Is she okay? And then I would constantly, when I would find out that she was back in town, I would be like, hey, come out with us. Come out with us, because we are me and my wife are very positive influences on her, and her family has told us such as much. And that was important to me too, that they had identified us as positive influences on somebody like that who meant so much to me and who was such a loyal person. But she would tiptoe around hanging out with us. Like, she would say, yeah, we'll do that sometime. But it wouldn't happen. And I was like, man, that's odd. That's really odd. And then I ran into her at Walmart, and I noticed like her features were swollen. And I was like, did she gain weight while she was gone? Like, what happened? I didn't know that she was like in the early stages of cancer. I had no idea. And then one of her family members, after I saw her, told me that. And that was really one of the early points of her also not wanting to go out in public a lot, because she did a lot to take care of herself from a physical and visual standpoint. Like, she was fantastic at doing her makeup and her hair and all that stuff. And after I saw her there, she hadn't told me yet, and I hadn't found out yet, but she was like, I didn't want you to see me like that. I didn't want anybody to really see me like that. And I didn't quite understand what that meant yet. I didn't know that she had the early stages of cancer at that point. I thought, maybe she's battling like just a thyroid issue, like something like that. I didn't know even after I saw her for maybe a few weeks, maybe a month, and I can't even remember who exactly it was that told me. But then when they told me that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. That explains why she doesn't want to come out. That explains why she sent me that message afterwards. That explains why she hasn't been hanging out with any of our friends. That explains a lot of things. And when you hear about someone that age who, quite frankly, has seemed indestructible in the past, having something like that, your first reaction is, oh, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It'll work itself out. And as time went on and it became more clear that wasn't happening, that was, I don't want to say humbling. It was very jarring and very flooring because, like I said, she seemed like a bit of an indestructible person. She didn't shake easily. She wasn't easy to rattle or anything like that. And this very clearly had her rattled to the point to where she didn't want to socialize, and that was very unlike her.
What kind of cancer was it? Do you know?
I don't know. The conversations that we had, she didn't want to get that in depth about the fact that she had it, much less what she had and what all she went through and the treatments and things like that. I was very much left in the dark about a lot of that stuff, and I didn't want to like reach out to her dad, who I knew, and be like, hey, I know your daughter's going through this. What kind is it? What's she doing? All that stuff. And her sister, I actually didn't know until like maybe her final months. And by then, it's like I don't want to put her mind on that either. So there was a lot I was left in the dark about. And it's one of those things that's like, how do you approach somebody like that? And I did try, but it's hard to put into words. Like when it's very clear they don't want to talk about it, you don't want to push the issue. It was very obvious to me she wanted to keep her mind off of it instead of on it. And I don't know at what point she knew how long she would have. If she knew that, it was very unusual because I've had friends that have went through this type of thing before, and they knew and we knew the details, but with Cheyenne we didn't know, to the point to where when we found out what happened, it was stunning. Like, even though we knew it was going to happen, it was still stunning because she was very good at putting on a poker face. I mean, very good. She was active, fairly active, up until really the very end.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from my own experience with my sister. When my sister was diagnosed, she would always call me after a doctor's appointment and would make a point of saying, I'm only telling you.
Yeah.
She always would tell me that. She would say, I'm only telling you. Don't tell, your in-laws. She didn't even want my wife to know.
Sure.
Every detail. So I can understand. I mean, sometimes, people they're having difficulty with it. They don't want to be reminded of it over and over again. So in Cheyenne's case, unfortunately, it was on March 21st, 2017 that she passed away. She was 2 weeks away from her 26th birthday.
Yeah.
So very young. 2 weeks away
Very
from her
young.
26th birthday. After that happened, you decided to do something that, you want to talk about dedication and sacrifice. What you decided to do took both. Walk me through why you decided to do this, to explain what it is that you did, why you decided to do it, just tell me the details.
So I mentioned, like, in not knowing a lot of the details about somebody who was a very good friend of mine. Like, I feel like maybe I had some guilt about that. Like, I should have pushed harder. I should have pushed for more information. But quite frankly, I went back and looked at, like, our messages and our texts, and it was like once a month up until she passed. I was like, hey, let us come see you. Let my wife and I come see you. Let's take you out to lunch. Let's do something. And it was every single month I was trying. And then the last few months she was like, I don't want you to see me like this. And that put it in perspective a lot for me that this person she didn't want to go out at all. And that's how I met her, was because she wanted to go out. She wanted to make friends. She wanted to socialize. She wanted to be accepted. She wanted to be around people, and she wanted to be loved. And she had all those things from me and some of our other friends, but she was at the point to where she didn't need it anymore. So I was like, you know what? I think it'd be a nice thing if I grew out my hair to the point to where I could donate it. And yeah, it was one of the most long-term dedicated things that I had ever done. And I'm so happy that I did it. So happy that I did it.
When was it that you made this decision? Because I remember, I see you a fair bit on camera here when we do our podcast.
Yeah.
I remember the stages, like Sean used to have very short hair, and I remember the stages. And then you got to the point where you would make comments about, oh, it got stuck in the car window again today.
Yeah.
Things like that. So when was it that you made this decision to start?
I knew the day of I was going to do that, because I got the message from her sister, and her sister told me that she passed. And the thing is, I kind of always knew that if I got that information, I got that news, it would be from her, because we would always keep each other updated on Cheyenne. But I mean, it doesn't make it any less surprising or jarring. And I think I decided in that moment, and I don't even think I told her sister Maria for months and months and months, because part of me was like, what if I know it sounds ridiculous. I was like, what if I screw up growing my hair? What if I grow my hair wrong? I never had long hair. I never had long hair. And it was really like, I think maybe 6-7 months in, I told her that I was doing this. And like, it didn't garner like a big reaction or anything. I just wanted her to know. And I didn't tell anybody but my wife because my wife's got to live with me. She's got to see this hair all the time. And all due respect to our viewers, my hair is my business. But I told her, and then I told Maria, and then I kind of put it out there once I committed to it. But I decided that day, like maybe within an hour, because I was like, what can I do? Like, you can send flowers, and that's great, and we did that. You can go to the memorial, that's great, we did that. But like, what do we do? Plant a tree in her honor? That's great for some people. That isn't something that Cheyenne, that a Cheyenne that I know would be like, oh, rad, you planted a tree for me. This is something that I think that if she were around and she knew, she'd be like, that's awesome. I appreciate that you did that. So that's what I wanted to go with.
So for the next, how long did you grow your hair out? Was it 3 years?
Yeah, it was about 2 months shy of 3 years, and the original plan was roughly 3 years. Quite honestly, I was like, oh, I'll have this grown in a year. What's it matter? Maybe 2. Yeah. And it was 3 years, and it's weird because I can't even remember what it was like to have long hair now.
Right. Yeah. So you grew your hair out for about 3 years, and when the time came that Sean was ready to cut it, because there was a period of time when you were debating not cutting it. Yeah. Because you got used to having long hair. But when you decided that you were ready to cut it, Sean and I talked about how can we bring attention onto this so that we can promote the charity that you had chosen. And what was the charity that you had chosen?
Wigs for Kids, which kind of got worked into a shoot there, which we'll talk about later.
But it ended up working out for both of them in the end.
Oh, it worked out for everybody. Yeah. It worked out for a lot of different people.
The one you chose was based where?
I don't know where it's based. It was, quite frankly, I had heard about it from Daniel Bryan. When he did a promo in the ring, he talked about cutting his hair, and he said that he donated it to Wigs for Kids. And I was like, man, that's a cause. That's a great cause. I worked with children at Boys and Girls Club of America for a long time. My wife and I don't have kids, but there's nothing more innocent than a kid, especially one that has had so much taken away from them. And my cousin's son had battled that and went through a lot of treatment as well. And so that was near and dear to my heart. My grandmother had cancer, obviously not a kid, but that one is one that stood out because I had seen a lot of that with my cousin's son and the promo that Daniel Bryan cut. So I got to credit Daniel Bryan for making me aware of that. And I had never told him that. I don't think I've spoken to him, but maybe one time, and that was before all this. But that's what led me to that charity.
Awesome. So the time came to do the haircut, and Sean and I, like I mentioned, we were throwing around ideas. What can we do to bring attention to this so that we can promote the cause and not just promote the charity, but promote Sean's initiative too. The first idea that we had was to reach out to a wrestler by the name of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, an old school wrestler from the 1980s, because his character was that he was a barber, and that whenever he defeated his opponent, he would cut their hair. So I reached out to Brutus Beefcake's wife, and she was very gracious. She was very accommodating. She said, absolutely, we will do it. She said, you don't have to pay him anything for, like an appearance fee. Just buy his dinner afterwards. And we were going to go with that.
That surprised me because, quite frankly, they have like wrestling conventions and stuff. And I avoided going to one in Baltimore last year because it had a lot of old-time wrestlers that we in wrestling call carnies. It's the carnival aspect of it where they'll be like, hey, brother, give me $20 if you want an interview type of thing. I thought we were going to get carnied, but I got to say I was surprised, very pleasantly surprised by that. That made me very happy to hear how willing and accepting they were.
Yeah, she was very cool about it. But then fate kind of took us in a different direction. So there was a brand new wrestling company at that time called AEW, All Elite Wrestling. And they launched a weekly national television show live every Wednesday on TNT in the US, on TSN in Canada. They had a group at that time, an act. And basically what that act would do is they would defeat their opponent in the ring, they would cut a lock of their hair, and they would keep it as a trophy. And I saw that, and Sean and I talked about that, and we said, this could be a better idea just because it's more timely. Nothing, no disrespect to Brutus Beefcake, but this was just a timely, fresh, new group. And so I sent a tweet on December 20 of 2019. I sent a tweet to Brandy Rhodes. Brandy Rhodes is the chief brand officer of AEW, but it just so happened that she was also involved on television with that group. Called the Nightmare Collective. That was the name of the act. So I sent a tweet to her, and within an hour, Brandy Rhodes got back to me on Twitter and basically said, absolutely, we'll do it. She said it in character, so to speak, because her character at the time was a bad guy. But she said, absolutely, we'll do it. She said, let's set it up. So from there, Sean and I, we arranged, I think it was Cleveland, Ohio, Sean?
Oh, boy. So it was there's a lot more to it than that. So, I mean, the timely aspect, and I'm not even talking about the Nightmare Collective. You got to remember with the Brutus thing, we were paying attention to his website to see where he might be near me geographically that we could realistically do this. When we had thought that we were going to go with Brutus, we said, well, I'm going to be in WrestleMania for Tampa. I had a show that week and I was going to do interviews. Well, it was like, well, we might as well just wait until Tampa WrestleMania week. As it turns out, Jimmy, there was no Tampa WrestleMania week.
No, that was April of 2020. So by then, COVID-19 hit and wiped out WrestleMania, yeah.
And little did we know that in December 2019 that had we planned this for April 2020, the haircut would not have happened like that.
That's right.
Whatsoever. Nothing happened. And so that's originally the idea that was being thrown around for AEW. I would go back and forth with their PR team, sometimes Brandy, and I think maybe Leva Bates too. But the original plan was for C2E2 during AEW Revolution weekend. C2E2 is a gaming convention in conjunction, or not in conjunction, AEW Revolution was going to do a thing along with them. And I was to get my hair cut very tentatively on the floor at C2E2. They were going to do some sort of skit, some sort of gimmick. But in the middle of January, I started to get messages from AEW's PR team. And it's saying, hey, what do you think about Cleveland? End of the month. I was like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go to Cleveland, honestly. I had already had my flight booked for Chicago. I was going to go to Chicago. I had it planned. I did not want to go to Cleveland because I live in Kentucky, and it's something I actually talked with John Moxley about. A lot of people think that when you're from the Cincinnati area, oh, Cleveland's just a hop and a skip. No, Cleveland is 7 hours away from me, and there are no reasonable flights to Cleveland. So I was like, you know what? If that's when you all want to do it, we'll do it because it's important to me and I appreciated them doing it so much. But logistically, I was trying to think, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I was like, you know what? We'll do it, and I'll take a bus there. So I took a bus to Cleveland at the end of January. I don't know if, Jimmy, you want to get into why they moved it up, but that's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, we could talk high level. I mean, there's going to be some people that see this that aren't pro wrestling fans.
Sure.
So we could talk high level about it. I mean, as it turned out, that group, the Nightmare Collective, that act on the AEW show was going to be disbanded.
Yeah.
And so
it was not connecting the way that they wanted to. The storyline just it wasn't good, and
right. It wasn't working out. And so that's why they moved it up. You think that's the reason?
And that is the reason. That is the reason, and I'll tell you why I know that was the reason. You had mentioned, they're going to disband this team. That's why they're doing this. That's why they won't wait a month.
I felt like they were, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, really, maybe, and then I get to the event, and I meet Leva Bates, who is Blue Pants of NXT fame. She's the librarian.
Explain what she does for the company.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if she works as an assistant or what that is, but it seemed a lot like a production assistant type of thing. She got me there. She had coordinated with me the time and all that stuff. Now, I had went all over Cleveland trying to find like a donation bag, and you wouldn't believe how hard it is to find postage in Cleveland. I was running all over that city, and it was freezing. Cleveland in January is freezing. I had no idea. But I get there, and I have all this stuff, and we go to the area in which they film skits and all that. And we had vaguely talked about it, but I meet Brandy there, and she was great, a little bit reserved, but great. I meet Luther, who could not be nicer. He is a wonderful person. I meet Melanie, who, again, a little bit reserved, and I meet Awesome Kong, who is absolutely stoked to do this. She's asking me about the charity, asking me what made me do it. She was wonderful. And my wife is a big fan of Glow, so I'm like, wow, I'm about to get my hair cut by the welfare queen on Glow. My wife is going to love this. After that, I'm walking around, and they could see me reach into the back of my head like, oh, my God, my hair looks ridiculous. And it was kind of in that moment, definitely a different situation than what Cheyenne went through, but I realized how self-conscious I was about the haircut that I was walking around with. I called it the Bayley haircut because I looked like WWE superstar Bayley after she got her heel turn haircut and had to go from being a really lovable good guy to a mean bad guy. And I was doing this, and I was like, okay, now I to a smaller degree, I understand. I didn't want people to see me with a goofy haircut. Then I was like, wait, what does it matter? What does it matter? Because this was the point. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was the point. And the point was, what does it matter? What does it matter if somebody laughs? What does it matter if somebody points? What does it matter if somebody jokes? What does it matter if somebody else has something to say? Because the people that I know love me, and the people that I know care about me, and the people that I know that support me don't care. It was like a full circle thing, Jimmy. Like, I was like, okay, I am not going through any adversity, and I was self-conscious in that moment. This girl that I loved and cared about and adored was going through the most adversity you could possibly go through, and she was self-conscious. I wish that she wasn't, but she was, and I kind of understood now. And I don't want to say it put a bow on it, but it helped a lot of the healing, because I think about her every single day. She was a good friend of mine. Still think about her every single day. But I kind of understood her more in that moment, if that makes any sense.
Sure, it's almost like it helped you get closure, sort of. So now I want to talk about the aftermath. Tell me about the aftermath. I know that there was a ton of positive feedback. Obviously, in the world of social media, there's always going to be negative people. And there were some negative people that accused us of being in bed with AEW when Fightful is supposed to be a media outlet. We were accused of being in bed with one of the companies that we cover. In reality, that just wasn't the case. There were accusations that AEW covered your travel. They didn't. There were accusations they covered your accommodation. They didn't. But in
Didn't pay
terms,
me.
no, it didn't pay you nothing.
I got a comp ticket to a television show, and that's standard.
Right.
WWE gives me comp tickets. Ring of Honor gives me comp tickets. New Japan does. UFC likely will. Bellator, like every company does that for media. There were also people that said, "Oh, did they pay for your food?" Well, no, they didn't. They did not pay for the absolutely terrible cheese pretzel that I bought that night, and quite frankly, you didn't either, Jimmy. So I might invoice that pretty soon.
Fantastic. Sounds good.
I mean, those arena pretzels are very expensive. But that's something that does often get covered in media. Like they cover food for a lot of people, but that did not happen. The most I got from AEW was they sent out an envelope with the stamps that I had already bought for me, and Chris Harrington brought me a beanie to wear because, he was worried about if I worried what I looked like. More so, like I said, I was like, you know what? It's cold in Cleveland. I'm walking back to my hotel tonight at 11:30 p.m. in this, so I'll take the beanie.
So tell me about the positive reaction.
Gosh.
Like obviously we were able to, and we talked earlier about how there was a glitch with the charity. So basically
Yes.
what happened was Sean was intending to send the hair to one charity. AEW, when they posted the video of the haircut on their social media channels, they put the handle of a different Wigs for Kids charity.
And that handle is no longer active. The charity
Really?
is,
Really?
but the handle isn't, which is a bummer. The positive reaction was just overwhelming. And the point of this for me, because some of the people that were being negative, Jimmy, they're like, oh, you did it for attention. Yeah, I did do it for attention. I did it to get attention on the cause that we were working for.
Yep.
I wanted more people to grow out their hair and donate it. That's what I wanted. I wanted somebody that already had long hair, and maybe they were just going to get it cut. Maybe they would donate it now. Maybe they would grow out their hair for 3 years. Maybe they would do that. Tim Traver, one of our very loyal viewers, did that. He's doing that right now and has been doing that since then. That makes me so happy. That I never understood the power of a platform until I had one. And it's like I'm not the type of guy that can just give financially in the way that other people can. But what I can do is kind of try to influence people to do positive things, and that was important to me. And Brandy Rhodes and Luther and AEW and Melanie and Awesome Kong, they can influence people to do positive things. And to me, the fact that they did that in the middle of them running a high-profile storyline on cable TV, I was like, okay, that made me happy too. That made me very happy. And seeing, like in the comments, multiple people, because all I wanted was at least one to say, I'll donate my hair. Seeing multiple people say, I'm going to do this. I'm thinking about doing this. That was exactly what I wanted. That's what I was aiming for. That's what I was hopeful for, that they could help make somebody else more comfortable in their own skin and somebody else's hair, quite frankly. If they could help do that, that was the primary goal.
And then as it turned out, an episode of one of their television shows that they taped that night, they disbanded the Nightmare Collective.
So, yeah, it was they cut my hair at 7:30. I mean right before their cable TV show went on the air. Now, what they do is after that cable TV show finishes airing, they tape a web show that airs the following Tuesday. I mean, 2 hours and 35 minutes after I got that haircut, they split up the team. Yeah. Awesome Kong has not been seen since. Melanie was not on AEW TV for a long time after that. Luther hasn't been a part of a major angle, and Brandy Rhodes moved on and moved into a managerial role. So they disbanded the team. The fact that they were like, you know what, we're going to disband this team. It's a major plot point on the show. Let's get this guy in there and fulfill our commitment. I got nothing but respect for them. I don't care if somebody calls me biased or a homer or whatever. That said a lot to me about the character of the people involved and the character of the company that I was dealing with, and I will not forget that. I will not forget them accommodating this situation. I would say accommodating me, but accommodating this situation, it meant a lot. It said a lot to me. And
did Cheyenne Scott's family or other close friends find out? I mean, you said that you told her sister that you were growing out your hair. Did they find out about everything that happened? Did they find out that we were able to kind of get this high-profile haircut scheduled and drive awareness and promote this charity? Did they find out about all that?
Yeah, I'm not as close as I used to be with her sister, but I keep in touch with her sister pretty regularly. I don't keep in touch with her parents, but I mean, we've got hundreds of mutual friends. I mean, hundreds of mutual friends. And yeah, I posted it on my Instagram, which before this year was mainly personal friends. I posted it on my Facebook, which I don't do wrestling or anything like that with. I did that, and it got a lot of positive reactions, and that's the thing. There are a few of us who go above and beyond to try to make sure that Cheyenne is remembered, and that her family knows that she's remembered as well, and that's very important to me. That's very important to me that happened, and the reception was very positive, and I was very happy about that.
And because there was that miscommunication with the other charities' Twitter handle being posted by AEW, we made a financial contribution to both charities, and both charities I think got a lot of promotion out of it. So the one that you had chosen initially, they're the ones that received the hair donation, but both got a financial contribution. So yes. I thought everything worked out great in the end.
And beyond that, even you said, "Hey, is there anybody else that should get a financial contribution?" And I said, yeah, there's a charity in Jacksonville, the Love Alive charity that former WWE TNA wrestler Elijah Burke does, and they also got a donation too. And there were a couple of causes that I prefer to keep those donations anonymous, but that we did in Cheyenne Scott's name locally that we did personally. But yeah, it was one of those situations. It's like, hey, I wish they would have gotten the right charity, but okay, so two or three charities got helped as a result. I'm completely fine with that.
Sure. I mean, we benefited two. We promoted two instead of one, you know? Well, I think it was a cool thing that you did. Like I said, it took a lot of sacrifice and dedication on your part. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to show the haircut, Sean. Thanks to AEW for connecting with us to do this. Again, I thought it was a great initiative on your part. I was really happy that AEW was part of it. I hope that Cheyenne's family liked it. And so again, this is Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor of Fightful.com. Thanks for your time. And here's the haircut, courtesy of Sean and AEW. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com here backstage at AEW Dynamite. And I see Brandy Rhodes, who I actually had scheduled. Brandy, you mind going ahead and... Okay, sure. Last week, all across social media, it looked like you had some memory loss, some cognitive issues. Is it safe for you to be here? Are you putting yourself at risk by being in this environment?
Listen, I'm really busy. The jokes land way better with these guys.
The Nightmare Collective, I wasn't scheduled for you guys, so my mother didn't say yet. I think I'm good.
Stay still, friend.
Stay still? Why? I think I just joined a cult.